You haven't had enough of me already? I gotta stand here and talk? Jeez. Oh, that I were an angel and could have the wish of my heart. I sang this song at my dad's funeral last year. He believed in the LDS church with all his heart. When he was in the hospital undergoing cancer treatments, he told me that the greatest desire of his heart was to be able to live forever so that he could go all around the world and teach the gospel to everyone. Sadly, that wish was not granted to him. But his life and love certainly had an impact on not only me, but others around him. My dad was a convert to the Mormon faith. He joined when he was 19 years old and was a firm believer ever since. My mom was raised as an active member her whole life. So, of course, from the moment I was born, I was also raised as a very active member of the Mormon church. And I believed it every bit as firmly as they did. I always believed I had an unshakable testimony. I was one of the strong ones. I would never doubt. And then I did. Leaving Mormonism was by far the most difficult experience of my life. More so than my years of infertility, financial stress, or even losing my dad to cancer. But I'm not here to talk about why I left Mormonism. That is a story for another time, another place. Instead, I have been asked to discuss the positive things that I gained from my many years in the LDS Church. They first asked me to speak on this topic last year before Christmas. I love speaking and sharing my thoughts and ideas, so I readily agreed. But I soon found that for the first time I can ever remember, I was at a loss for words. Every time I thought about what I would say, it just seemed all wrong. Perhaps it was because leaving Mormonism is still so fresh to me, and I still struggle. Nevertheless, I cannot deny that Mormonism shaped so much of my life, and I can see that much of my life is good. And when I stop to think about it, there really is a lot to love about Mormonism. It makes sense. If I didn't love it so much, it wouldn't be so hard to have left it. So what were those things I was holding on to? The first thing that came to my mind was service. Because I have been given much, I too must give. Because of thy great bounty, Lord, each day I live. I shall divide my gifts from thee with every brother that I see who has the need of help from me. This was such an important and integral part of my life. And it still is. I was always taught, even when I was very young, that service was one of the most important things in life, and my dad led by example. He always helped those in need, even sacrificing his own needs and comforts to do so. He really loved to serve, and he passed that love down to all of his children. I learned of Jesus and who he served and how he served those who no one else would. The outcasts of society. And I was taught that I should do the same. Now, I know there would be many who did not always quite practice what they preached, but I learned from my dad, and he helped everyone. He taught us to work and then to use those skills to help those in need. And by his example, I learned that a life lived in not giving service was no life worth living. Have I done any world of good in the world today? Have I helped anyone in need? Have I cheered up the sad and made someone feel glad? If not, I have failed indeed. along with service is my very deep and abiding love of visiting teaching. This is definitely one area that I feel the Mormon Church got right. The errand of angels is given to women, and this is our gift that as sisters we claim, to do whatsoever is gentle and human, to cheer and to bless in humanity's name. As many know, the Relief Society is the women's organization of the Mormon Church, and its original purpose was for the women to go out among the population and serve others, mostly other women. It's not a bad organization, really, and I had a lot of fun in it. I learned how to change a flat tire, how to decorate a cake, how to plant a garden, and all sorts of things on being a good wife and mother. But the part I loved the most was visiting teaching. The women are divided into pairs. Each pair visits several other women every month. They are there to be friends, teachers, companions, to give help when needed, to give comfort, to give guidance. We could all use a little of that in our lives, couldn't we? I love visiting teaching so much that I still have my own visiting teachers come every month, even though I no longer attend the LDS church. I really love having them there, and we talk for a long time, just about life. When my dad passed away last year, they even attended his funeral. They had never met my dad. They were there simply to support me, to mourn with me. And I can't begin to tell you how much that meant to me. They did not do it out of duty. They did it out of love. And speaking of love, community was always something I loved about being Mormon. Craved would probably be a more important term, appropriate term. Mormons are very big on community. They love getting together. Activities abounded for all ages. Nary a week would go by when there wasn't one thing or another going on to bring people together. It was a chance for us to be with friends and to come together for common cause, and many times just to have fun. I have participated in primary activities, youth dances, ward campouts, potlucks, book clubs, scrapbook clubs, mommy meetups, and a whole slew of other delights. And I love them all. I have always been a people person, and I used any excuse I could to be with them and around them. In truth, it was the thought of losing this community that kept me holding on to Mormonism for as long as I did. Quite happily for me, I very soon discovered that Mormons were not the only ones good at coming together as a community. And finally, if you hadn't noticed, perhaps the greatest thing that I took from Mormonism was my great love of music. Well, music is great everywhere, but nobody does it quite like the Mormons. Maybe I would have loved music even without Mormonism, but I believe it was the music that spoke to me more than anything else ever could. No message became clearer, no emotion more pure, no thought more poignant than when I heard it through a song. The music wove through my heart and became so much a part of me. Before I left, I was the ward chorister, which was very much like what Beth does for us here. It was a position I absolutely loved. And I was certain that I could, and I let that love pour out of me every time I stood in front of the congregation to lead a hymn. I was certain that I could never find any other place that could have music that would touch my heart and soul so perfectly. How glad I am, how incredibly grateful that I have found that heart music here. My life flows on an endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the that hails a new creation through the tumult and the strife. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? I have been on an incredible journey, and yet that journey continues. I shake off the dust of negativity and embrace the positive. I take with me all the good I can from my life before. That is my foundation. And upon that foundation, I am building a new life. A life of wonder, of joy, of peace, of hope, of light, and of truth.
I'm going to get a good look at everybody, and then I'm going to put these up here so I can I'm less likely to cry, but I'll see your faces and things, so this is all for the best. I'm going to tell you about a gift that I got on my 8th birthday. When I turned 8 years old, I was given this gift literally on my birthday at church from my step-grandfather. And it was it's kind of a gift given to me by my family, by my ancestors, by my church community, by my larger community, by my God. It was bestowed upon me because I had reached the age of reason. I had reached an age of knowing right from wrong, and although it was stressed at church by my teachers that your 8th birthday wasn't a magic transforming overnight into a person who's now accountable for reasoning all situations with wisdom and grace, it felt magical to me. There was a lot of responsibility with this gift, and I felt up to it. The rewards were going to be worth the effort. I'm going to revisit the St. John quote that I spoke earlier. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because the world sees him not, neither knows him. But you know him, for he dwells with you, and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. I love this. I felt armed to go out into the world with this new gift, this protection and this comfort and this teacher that resides in me, in my own head, in my heart. The Holy Ghost. Ta-da. Now, this gift of the Holy Ghost that was ritualistically given to me on my 8th birthday was symbolically given to me that same day in the form of a small silver ring with a green shield on it and the shiny letters CTR. For those of you not in the know, CTR stands for Choose the Right, which is an appropriate gift at the dawn of the age of reason. This same ring was lost a few short months later in a sweaty-handed game of Red Rover at school. And I was devastated. But I didn't despair for long, because I knew that the power of this holy presence did not reside in the ring. Just like the flying power wasn't really in Dumbo's feather. Those are just ribbons that we tie around our finger to remind us that the power is actually within. So it's just a matter of remembering that it's there. So then we fast forward to my early 20s. At that time, my spiritual journey had taken me away from the Mormon church for the most part. And some would say that as my attendance of Sunday meetings dropped, that my gift that I had been nurturing and enjoying for 13 plus years was somehow fading and was going to someday leave me completely. And I must admit, the idea gave me pause. I had spent many hours alone with that still small voice. Pardon me. I prayed, I meditated. I thought about and wished about and analyzed feelings and experiences and people, and for all those years I practiced the asking and the learning and the feeling and the listening. I paid attention to my night dreams and my daydreams. I had full-on conversations with that still small voice in my head, and I never felt crazy about it. Crazy for having them. I felt comfort. Many, many nights I recall the comfort. I recall the distress of not knowing what to do in a situation, and then the asking in my head, and then the comfort. Not necessarily answers, but peace. And I slept well. So you can imagine my dismay at the irony of employing this holy power to guide my future, only to have these internal urgings and intentions take me to a future where I was told I stood a good chance of losing this holy power that brought me there. No way. It was around this time that I got my hands on a book that some of you may have read, Women Who Run with the Wolves. This is by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. I think I'm saying that right. The entire book is a psychological romp through fairy tales and folklore, stories regarding women and their experiences and their perspectives, and then each new chapter is a new story, told in Estes' words, and then broken down in an analyzed fashion to bring you a metaphor for modern life. And I devoured this book. I remember particularly one story about a girl named Vasilisa. This was a Russian tale. It's about a young girl who finds herself in a rough position in life. She's orphaned by her mother early in life, and then her father remarries this cantankerous gal and moves her and her two spoiled rotten daughters into the house. This is a familiar story, right? They all start the same. But in this tale, Vasilisa has a leg up on her new stepfamily. Before she died, Vasilisa's mother gave her a precious gift, a wooden doll. And she was instructed by her mother to keep the doll in her pocket and to feed it and listen to it, and it would guide her and give her comfort. Vasilisa goes on to have adventures where her wicked stepmother tries to do her in by sending her to the wild witch at the center of the woods, Baba Yaga, and she sends her there to collect fire. As you might guess, the doll guides Vasilisa into the center of her subconscious. Into the center of the woods. And there she helps Vasilisa with her trials, with her inner wild woman self. The witch. Eventually, having won the witch's respect and her own self-respect, Vasilisa returns home with the gift of fire. She enters the cabin where her stepmother and sisters have been freezing to death without fire due to their own selfish stupidity, and the coals of Baba Yaga burst everything into flame, and everyone perishes, except Vasilisa and her doll, and probably her father, who's absent for all of this. I don't know why. I love this story, and I love the similarities with the wooden doll and the Holy Ghost of my youth. I love that the gift of conscience or inner voice or wisdom was passed down to this girl by her mother, giving it that feminist bent that was missing in my original narrative. And for me, it expanded upon this idea of God putting a piece of himself in my heart. Suddenly, I reckoned I had this gift always. I had it before I turned 8, as well as after I journeyed away from the Mormon church, and all I needed to do was feed it. And I figured I did that almost daily with my constant pondering and reading and learning and listening. So, now here we are today, and my son turned 8 this last February. And memories of Vasilisa and Baba Yaga and the Holy Ghost found me wanting to give Simon a gift, similar to the one that I got when I was his age, that led me and my life in a meaningful way. And I want to give him a symbolic ring to go with it. So it's been the topic of a few awesome discussions between Joe and I about what kind of wisdom or practice we would like to impart to our boy while he's young and learning to be a grown-up. Choose the right is a dandy phrase, but in the end it's not exactly what I want to convey in a lifetime mantra. For one thing, it's already taken, but for another, I assume he's going to make sad choices in his life. I actually expect it. And I worry that it's a real setup to ask someone to do something you know that no one is capable of doing. Garden Sorry. I want this to be a reminder, but not a source of guilt, ever. So I thought about a number of words and phrases and acronyms I could stamp onto a ring for Simon. There's a billion things I'd like him to remember in life. Be curious, lighten up, eat your vegetables. I thought of my favorite Buddhist practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that I've employed in my life as part of that comforting myself when I'm grieving. I have found that if I pay attention and take note of what's happening, the lessons and the empathy for others in the future doesn't get lost. It seems the single most important thing I can do when I'm in despair is pay attention. And then, if nothing else, you can be that source of comfort for someone else in the future. If you remember what happened, you know, when I was so sad, this is what I noticed about myself and my world. And so being mindful, I thought that's great, but I didn't want to put a big BM on his ring. But okay, I gotta get something else. So another word that came to mind that goes hand in hand with mindfulness is the idea of, well, taking actions on purpose. Deliberateness, intentionalness, intention. This kind of practice helps us own our stuff. When you are held accountable for your actions and reactions in life, you don't make decisions willy-nilly. You think before you act. You calculate your moves like a chess player, reserving the right to be spontaneous and foolish if that's what you intend to do. But just living intentionally means you're not sitting around letting life happen. You're taking action. So that's something I wanted in there. And Leslie, I wanted this ring to speak to the deeply personal and unique. I wanted Simon's conscience to reflect his authentic self, the self that isn't one-size-fits-all morality, but rather something that incorporates the wisdom of the metaphorical father and mother generations into this ever-evolving experience of his self. Every ring wearer would be absolutely unique and authentic. So finally I narrowed this down, and this acronym that I came up with is catchy and corny enough that he should be able to remember it, and remember it came from his corny mother, and it incorporates these important things. So, I don't have the ring made yet. We're gonna work on that together. But I would like to present this idea now to Simon. You don't need to come up, you can sit right there. But just a blessing to you. I present to you the AIM ring, A-I-M. May it gently and fashionably remind you to be authentic, intentional, and mindful. May it bring you comfort. Okay, may it bring you comfort as you consider those loving souls who've gone before you, who have lived and loved and cried like you. May it evolve and change to fit your heart each passing year and with each awesome adventure. May you remember that I am aiming too, all for you. May you always remember what you said to Daddy and me when we were shooting slingshots last week and you made a discovery. If I wanted to go far, I need to aim it high. And may this gift be something that brings you insight and peace in your life as it has in mine. Namaste.